top of the morning to you. If you're just waking up, it's a public holiday for most South Africans. Yes, it's Good Friday for Christians across the world, and our Jewish viewers are also marking Pesach, which is also a significant time in the Jewish calendar. Now, we're talking other issues as well to help you. Now, many South Africans who are close to retirement might be worried if their savings will be enough to live off following the economic crisis that we're facing. It is thus essential for South Africans who are living in their golden years to check if their financial plan and budgets match their retirement goals. Now, South Africans brace themselves to tighten their belts due to price hikes in inflation and petrol, and the older generation who are still employed and are getting closer and closer to retirement should reassess if they have or are saving enough money for the nest egg. Now, joining us in our studio in Sea Point in Cape Town is Tracy Jensen, who is the head of corporate retirement at 10X Investments. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, especially on a public holiday. We got you up bright and early. Thank you very much indeed for that. So retirement is, I suppose, one of the things, we should actually be thinking about the moment we start working, isn't it?
Absolutely. The sooner you start, the better. If you delay it to, say, 20 years before you retire, you have to save 4 times as much, which nobody can do. People already struggle to save for retirement.
All right, so how do we plan for this retirement story? You know, we talk about savings. Is that enough? Is that the best way of doing this? What options are out there for us to make sure that when that day comes and I get my watch from my company that thank you for the last 30 years of service, but you're on your way, that I've actually got enough to take care of me?
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to use the analogy of you can have a goal, but you need more than a goal. You actually need a plan. So I always used to say to my friends when I left varsity, I'm going to have a Ferrari by the time I'm 30. But there was no plan of how that was going to happen. So you can have goals, but firstly, they've got to be realistic goals. You know, you can't say I want double the income in retirement that you earn now. So have a realistic goal. Generally aim for about at least 60% of your final salary, and then actually have a plan. So, and then there's many free online planning tools we have on our website as well. Go put in how much you're planning on saving and see where that's actually going to get you. And for most people, they haven't planned enough, and then at least you can make corrections. But if you never know where you're on track to get, you're not going to be able to make those corrections until it's too late to actually do something about it.
You talk about corrections, so I guess, you know, you should at least once a year be sitting with someone to give you advice, because our life circumstances change, the world changes, and that plan should be adjusting as you go along, I guess. Yeah,
absolutely. It's something you have to review all the time because, as you're saying, market conditions or circumstances, you might lose your job for periods, there might be unplanned things that happen, but not just about what you're saving, but also how you're investing that. So depending on where you invested, you could have to save twice as much. So things like fees are really critical. They can have a significant impact in the long term. The kind of portfolio, when you're a long-term investor, you want to invest quite heavily in shares and property, which, as you say, sounds risky with, for example, the financial crisis. But in the long term, it's really the only proper way to create wealth. Investing money in the bank or earning a little bit of interest in the long term is just not going to be enough.
So what do people do? They've got this dilemma, they've got debt, and should they be saving or should they be paying off their debt? Especially if you're trying to reach these long-term plans, what should they do?
I think you've got to distinguish between short-term debt and long-term debt. So short-term debt would be things, for example, you buy clothes on debt, or you know, things that you're going to consume in a very short space of time. Longer-term debt is things more like your house. Okay, so longer-term debt is fine. You have your payment plan. Short-term debt, you ideally want to pay off quite quickly because you've got a high interest rate. And then don't create more debt, because I think that's the thing, you know, once the short-term debt is paid off, many people then go out and see the next thing and want to buy something else. So I'd say pay off your short-term debt and draw up a savings plan and be realistic. Don't say I'm going to start saving because 15% of your salary, which is what you need to save for retirement. Maybe start with 5, you know, when you get your increase next year, but commit to it, because I know it's always easy to each year delay it. commit to, okay, I'm going to make it 7.5% next year, and, you know, make it iterative. But that's why I say, have a plan. Don't have this unrealistic goal and then go, I can't do it, and then you give up and you go back to what you were doing.
You know, I heard an alarming statistic the other day about just how few people are prepared for retirement. Just give us an indication of just, you know, how important it is to make a plan, as you were saying, and how many people, if you know, are just not prepared for that day when they get retired, and then suddenly the shock hits them that actually, do you know, I have nothing.
So 90% of South Africans cannot retire without financial assistance at some point in their retirement, which is extremely high. And I think that also goes to having this kind of conversation in your family. Often finances are not really spoken about. So firstly, you don't learn from your parents because it's never really spoken about. And secondly, you then also get the surprise that you now have to save yourself. You've got to pay off your debt. You're going to potentially be supporting your parents. So the sooner you can have these kind of conversations to learn and also know if you're going to be supporting them, the better.
All right, so it's easier to start when you're young, but people like me, my hair is going grey already. What sort of plans can I make? Because I've got a smaller window now. I suppose it's never too late, but you must do something.
Exactly. It's always better to start anytime, even if you've missed out the early years. It's always better to start than to just go, oh, well, I've lost it, so let's give up. So I would say try save as much. What I say to people is a lot of little things you don't even think about, going to buy a cappuccino every day or going to buy KFC or takeaways for lunch. You know, you see it a lot, but that adds up to easily over 1,000 Rand in a month. So making little adjustments firstly, then secondly, what kind of car are you driving? So I know South Africans love their cars and probably spend a lot on debt every month. So, you know, if you can keep your car for longer, then again, you can save more. So I think you've got to be very practical about it. It's all very well having a plan on paper, but that's not going to help. And as I said, as a long-term investor, you want to invest mostly in shares and property. That's really going to make your money work for you. You want to minimize your fees because the less in fees, the more is going to grow and be invested. And then put your money in index funds, which track the market. It's less risky. You know, so save as much as you can, but also make sure your money is working for you, it's invested, so that you don't have to do all of the work.
Okay, Tracy Jensen, thank you very much indeed. It's clear that one needs a plan, and get advice. Tracy Jensen is the head of corporate retirement at 10X Investments. Go out and get advice before it's too late. We'll see you after the break.